Consultants share their funniest office meeting drama and mishap stories. New resale partner called. They wanted us to refund a recent deal they made with the government, then tell the government agency that we needed to rebook directly through us and not them. Then give them 1/3 the money through another channel. They also didn't want us to tell said government agency about this because they were blacklisted recently. I said no. They were very angry and demanded to speak with an executive. I told the executive that this sounded like money laundering. A few hours later, I get a call back from said executive. I can't sign off on their deal. It sounds exactly like money laundering. No go. We didn't refund, but we did alert our government agency customer in case they felt the need to take things further. We had a relatively new customer, and I was the third one engaged with them. My coworker, a self-important book smart kinda guy, was trying to impress them and over-deliver. We had a meeting about the content, and he said I would be delivering it. I was looking at it and found all sorts of inaccurate information on there, and some that would certainly scare the customer because it made mentions on this way of doing it is insecure, or something like that. I wasn't have any of it. So I told him that I wouldn't deliver something like this. His response was, I am not asking you. I am telling you to do it. I politely said that no, I'm just not comfortable presenting something like this that I have no knowledge about, and that it was his slides, so he should present it. He decided to go ahead with it, and so, I'm in the room when he's giving the presentation, and it's going exactly as well as I expected. The CIO stops in mid-sentence and asked about one of the bullet points, and exclaimed, "We're not even doing that." This goes on for a little while more, with the CIO and others poking holes in his presentation. It was scheduled for half an hour. Not even to the 10-minute mark, he sits down and says, "Okay, I need to change this slide deck. We can talk about X now to use the time," and change the subject. It was embarrassing for everyone. We eventually lost the project. The sad part, if he had just listened to me, we probably would have them as a client. We had a conference call with a client and they were introducing a new program manager leading the delivery. As they were reading out the list of accomplishments, how she was ex-IBM and led similar programs, someone from the offshore team blurts out, "But can she cook?" and kept repeating it after each point. You could hear laughter in the background, which implies it was in a shared room. Next thing, we get mandatory training on unconscious bias. Another was when a supply had arranged a global cook-off to showcase their solution to the client. While we were waiting for full attendance, the CFO was presenting the business challenge and went over the requirements. On the chat window, some wrote, "What the F is this loser talking about?" Before the CFO could respond, the full audience singed in and not realizing the amount of people the supply invited. The conference bridge got killed off. Bit like the supplier's reputation after. On my last project, we built and maintained a software product for the client. Client brought on another consulting firm to revamp their company-wide training processes. The training process was mostly outside the scope of our product, but there were a few key dependencies, such as verifying that a user has gone through specific training before they can access the software. A few months in, we were scheduled to meet with the other firm to get aligned and learn about their proposed changes to the training process. Long story short, it was the worst meeting of my life, at least in terms of secondhand embarrassment. The other firm's PM fell apart a few minutes into the meeting. She didn't prepare any agenda, didn't have the slightest understanding of the software product, and was proposing massive software changes to accommodate their new training process. To say it was technically infeasible would be an understatement. We were certainly caught off guard, and so was the client, who ended the meeting 15 minutes in. 2 months later, they terminated the contract for non-performance. Since then, we have taken over and introduced a new LMS for the revamped training process. I was a new MBS graduate, with my partner, meeting with the client CIO, and she showed her dominance by clipping her fingernails during the meeting. At another meeting many years later, I was the project manager, and a developer was showing our code to the client PM. Conversation got superheated and the developer took a swing at the client. We coached him afterward but somehow didn't fire him. Years later, the client, as in the guy who almost got hit, was promoted up a few levels due to the success of our project, hired him from us to work on his team. On that same account a few years later, after a few promotions for me, I was with our account executive, sales guy, and president of our division meeting with the client, and the executive VP threatened my life if I was unsuccessful. At the end of the program, I was still alive and in front of her team at a celebratory dinner. She offered me a job. We worked for months in a pursuit trying to sell a project. We finally make it to Orals. Client team is all sitting in a conference room. We are all remote. Client doesn't realize the room was unmuted. CEO tells his team let's mentally prepare for another 2 hours of consultative bull. We didn't with the project. One of my coworkers was in a conference call when he heard glass shatter, the car scraping against a wall at high speed, anti-lock braking kicking in, and then the sound of plastic or metal going crunch. Everyone thought that the guy had just died. Turns out, the person was having the conference call while driving. A deer ran into the side of this vehicle, which broke a window. He panicked, swerved a bit while braking, which led him straight into the concrete barrier. As that was only 1 to 2 feet away from him because he was on the left lane. And then was rear-ended. Get together like a half a dozen partner-level people from various firms on a call from time zones all over the world just to get something confirmed by the US lawyer. Literally a yes or no type answer. Took forever to line up all the calendars. In the meeting he finally said, "This thing you want me to confirm. I hereby inform you that I am not permitted to confirm it verbally. You have to send me a snail mail letter." For a second I thought the partner in the room with me would fling the desk phone at a wall, because he was cursing a fair bit. Like really, Mr. Liar. It didn't occur to you to mention this during the back and forth emails? Or the snail mail to a different country part? We need this shit right now, not in a week's time. Thank you for watching. If you want more consulting stories like this, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel.